In the shadowed age of steel and sorrow, where men bled not just from wounds but from fate itself, survival was a tale whispered on cracked lips. In this world of medieval war, every heartbeat was rebellion, every breath defiance. Soldiers marched not for glory alone, but for the fragile hope that their bodies might endure what no healer could truly mend. Bandages were rags, medicines were prayers, and recovery a wager made in blood. They fought not only enemies, but hunger, disease, pain, and the silence of their own minds. What kept them alive was not science, but belief, brotherhood, and the raw power of the human spirit. Stay with us till the end of this brutal yet beautiful tale of medieval survival, and witness how hearts kept beating when all hope seemed lost. Like, subscribe, and join our growing brotherhood of medieval truth seekers. In the cruel dawn of our torn and battered world, when the cold bite of steel was as familiar as the warmth of a morning sun, men rose from the damp earth not as heroes, but as desperate souls condemned to struggle. War was not a song nor a banner, but a weight upon the spine, twisting every breath into a prayer. Within this unforgiving medieval life, there were no promises beyond the next heartbeat. We did not march for honor alone, but because fate offered no mercy to those who stood still. Every clatter of mail, every thud of boots across mud, sodden fields, was a grim reminder of how fragile a man truly was. When the blow of a warhammer crushed through iron, bound helms, or an arrow found its secret place between ribs, the world shrank into agony and blood. On those battlefields, time bled slower than wounds. There were no learned doctors, no clean linens to press against torn flesh. There were only torn cloaks, moss gathered from trees, and belts tightened above limbs swelling with ruin. Our comrades dragged us, not from tenderness, but from duty, knowing that a man still breathing might yet swing a blade again. Yet even in this most brutal moment, survival was less a skill and more a stubborn refusal to die. When the sword struck bone or the mace turned joints to gravel, pain thundered in a man's skull like distant drums. Screams broke from dry throats not out of weakness, but because flesh has its own terrible truth. Without the grace of anesthetic or knowledge of true healing, our only comfort was wine sour with age, ale thick with yeast, or spirits stolen from noble tables. We drank not to celebrate, but to blur the edges of terror. Blood flowed freely, mingling with mud, sweat, and the fear that our bodies might betray us before the sun fell again. A fallen soldier was rarely greeted by gentle hands. His wounds were wrapped in what little could be torn from another garment. Linen stiff with past blood was wound anew around fresh injuries. Leather straps bound jagged cuts, and cold mud was pressed firm to stanch the life pouring from arteries. In our ignorance of infection, we offered our bodies to fate. After all, no man feared fever tomorrow when he was bleeding out today. There was no sterility in this medieval world, only desperation stitched with belief. Some, half conscious and delirious, found themselves hauled behind lines where barber surgeons waited with sores dull from countless limbs. They cut not for art, but for time. With a swift slice of the knife, meat was parted. With grinding iron teeth of the saw, bone was severed. Tourniquets bit deep into skin, slowing life long enough for iron brands heated over coals to press against the raw stump and sear flesh closed. The scent of burning skin mingled with screams many could not silence, yet this torment was hope, hope that rot would not crawl up the bone, hope that another day might dawn. Those who survived the severing did so through strength of youth or some stubbornness blessed by heaven. Many more slipped into dark fevered sleep, never to wake again, but some, wrapped in the coarse blankets of monasteries or lying in straws, strewn corners of camp, endured. Honey dripped into wounds as golden salvation, thick as loyalty, sealing flesh by some magic we did not understand. Garlic paste was smeared across swollen limbs, believed to draw out corruption. Vinegar burned like sin itself, but we poured it freely in hope it washed away the unseen curses that followed every blade. Herbs gathered by village wives and whispered over by chanting monks became our salvation. Yarrow to stop the bleeding, thyme to cleanse, sage to cool angry skin. We trusted in these plants not out of knowledge, but because tradition was the only bomb passed faithfully from one broken generation to the next. In the camps beyond the killing fields, survival waged a quieter, deadlier war. Soldiers slept packed like spoils in tents heavy with lice. Rats gnawed on crumbs and whispered plague into our trembling flesh. We shivered together in winter, sweating by day, freezing by night. Water ran foul with dung and death. Dysentery struck down the strongest man faster than any sword thrust. We drank ale not for pleasure, but because water itself had grown treacherous. Salted meat, black bread, peas boiled until mush, these were our daily feasts. Scurvy gnawed at gums, weakness bent our backs, but still we marched. Each man's belly growled like a beast unchained. Hunger we accepted as a companion. Disease we treated with leeches and knives, believing we must bleed to heal, when in truth we merely drained away what little strength remained. Nights fared better, with squires to fetch cleaner cloth, warmer meals, and gentler rest. Yet no chin high in steel could avoid a fever spreading through ranks like whispered doom. A nobleman perished just as swiftly as a peasant when his gut twisted from spoiled stew or lungs filled with fluid. There was no refuge, only slower suffering cushioned by privilege. Beyond all this, the true torment simmered unseen beneath the helm. Men who had faced death 1,000 times lost the spark that once danced in young eyes. We spoke little of the horrors etched into memory. We called it fate, claiming God willed each ending, for without this belief our minds would crumble. Some men walked away from battle only to be haunted by ghosts no priest could banish. They woke screaming in the night, fists clenched, breath ragged, seeing again the moment steel split flesh. Others drowned their memories in deep casks of ale, laughing too loudly at cruel jokes, jests about severed limbs and rotting corpses. Humor became our shield, a bitter laughter to keep pain at bay. Brotherhood forged in blood became the only family that understood. Some could not bear life beyond war. Disfigured, limping, or missing parts of themselves, they found no welcome in peaceful towns. Cast aside, many became mercenaries, their hearts hardened like the blades they carried. Others joined monasteries, trading sword for scripture, hoping prayer might cleanse their souls of what their eyes had witnessed. But in truth, none of us truly escaped. We carried our wounds, seen and unseen, wherever we wandered. For a rare few, healing began, not with cure, but with adaptation. Broken bones were bound by sticks and cloth. When time set them crooked, a man learned to wield shield and spear with his opposite arm, or carry messages instead of blades. Blacksmiths forged crude iron braces, or carved wooden crutches to keep weak limbs moving. Survival was not measured by how whole you remained, but by how well you continued to serve. A man who could no longer swing a sword might train boys in footwork, guard gates, or stand watch upon crumbling walls. Families sometimes took back their broken sons, though mouths to feed were many and patience little. Yet even a wounded veteran could tend goats or mend fences slowly. Land was granted on occasion to those who had served faithfully. Not as charity, but as reward, a plot of earth where seeds might grow even if bodies did not. In monasteries, monks murmured prayers while applying pastes of comfrey, plantain, and marigold, believing these drew out poison. Some apothecaries travelled by cart, offering miracles in small bottles. Whether false or true, hope tasted the same going down a parched throat. In this medieval world, we did not speak of survival as triumph. We whispered of it like a secret, a stubborn miracle that clung despite blood loss, filth, infection, terror, and despair. Men died more often than they lived when sword met flesh. Yet the human body, fierce and unwilling to surrender, sometimes knitted itself back together with a strength we did not command. Our hearts did not beat because medicine made them strong. They beat because our will refused to yield. Survival was not gifted by science. It was earned by grit, by instinct, by community, and by the hard wisdom etched into every scar. To live after the wound was to be forever changed, but change became our companion. We learned that endurance in medieval war was a tapestry woven from pain, courage, and relentless adaptation. We did not thrive, we endured, and in that endurance we found the true heart of medieval survival. Thank you, brave soul, for traveling through this grim yet powerful journey of medieval survival, where blood, pain, faith, and brotherhood stitched together what swords tried to tear apart. If this tale stirred your heart with its raw truth of war, infection, resilience, duty, and unbreakable will, let your support echo across time. Like, subscribe, and share this story with those who cherish history, courage, and the undying spirit of mankind. Until our next descent into the medieval world of sacrifice and endurance, keep your sword sharp, your heart stronger, and remember survival is not just a victory, but a vow carved in blood.